Hey everyone, and welcome back to Hoopers Nation, your top destination for NBA basketball content. Whether we like it or not, James Harden is unquestionably one of the most talented and skilled players in NBA history. The 2018 regular season MVP possesses the most lethal step-back three in the league and draws fouls at a historically high rate. Calling him a superb scorer might not even do justice to how good he really is at putting the ball through the hoop. To provide some context, he's been the NBA's scoring champion for the past 3 seasons, and came in at second place in the 3 seasons before. He's made the most free throws every season dating back to the 2014-2015 campaign. He's also made the most threes each year for the past 3 seasons. There's just no stopping this man. But why hasn't his elite talent translated into playoff success? Well, the Beard has never missed the playoffs in his career since he was traded to Houston and became a true NBA superstar. He's only made it to the Western Conference Finals twice and never been to the NBA Finals. In this video, we'll take a look at James Harden's struggles in the playoffs and why his style of play and the Rockets' offensive philosophy will never translate to postseason success. But before we do, please make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. First, let's look how far Harden and the Rockets have gone in the playoffs in each of the 8 seasons he's played there. In 2013, the Rockets lost 4-2 in the first round against the team that traded Harden away the season prior, the Oklahoma City Thunder. In 2014, the Rockets were once again eliminated in the first round, losing 4-2, this time at the hands of the Portland Trail Blazers. Pretty much everybody remembers this series because Damian Lillard's buzzer-beating 3 that won Portland the series airs every year in NBA playoff commercials. In 2015, the Rockets made it to the Western Conference Finals after a very close series with the Clippers in the previous round to win 7 games. The Warriors, however, made quick work of the Rockets that year, beating them 4-1 on their way to their first NBA championship. In 2016, Golden State once again beat them 4-1, this time in the first round. In 2018, the Rockets blew a 3-2 lead in the Western Conference Finals to the Warriors in arguably the biggest choke in the long history of Houston sports, allowing the Warriors to win 2 straight games and eventually their 3rd ring in 4 seasons. Then, in 2019, Houston was once again bounced by the Warriors in the second round, losing 4-2. Any common fan's first reaction is, maybe if it weren't for the Warriors, the Rockets might have already won a championship. That assumption is somewhat true. It isn't the Warriors' fault that the Rockets have been unable to play better basketball when it matters most. Now, when you ask yourself what type of talent Harden has been surrounded with in his run, he has actually had a bunch of really good teammates. He had Chandler Parsons before his surgically repaired knees didn't allow him to continue playing at a high level. He had Dwight Howard, at one point the best center in the league and a defensive monster that still had gas left in Houston after some injuries. He had Trevor Ariza and Eric Gordon, the perfect complementary floor spacers for his game. He had Chris Paul, whose game has aged terrifically well. And of course, now he has Russell Westbrook, and we're yet to see how far this partnership takes them. There are only 2 types of basketball teams that are able to find success in the playoffs, either great defensive teams or very efficient shooting and scoring teams. The Rockets have never been either of those, so it's no surprise Harden and company haven't amounted to bigger success in the postseason. Excluding 2018, the Rockets have ranked no higher than 14th in team defensive rating for the past 5 years. And while the Rockets' offense usually looks great in the regular season, their style of play just does not translate well into the postseason. When your offense is predicated on letting a single man play iso ball for 80% of the game and hoping the supporting cast makes their three-pointers, you can only get so far. The Rockets are damn lucky they have Harden, a historically great scorer running their one-man show. Most anyone else wouldn't ever be able to make it past the first round put in his position, and that's a testament to Harden's greatness. But compare the Rockets' offense to Golden State's and San Antonio's, the 2 teams that eliminated them for the past 5 seasons. It's iso ball and lackluster defense versus ball movement and rough defense. That's why the Rockets could never get past them. But they came so close in 2018, which has to be considered the best chance the Rockets had at an NBA Finals since their last championship in 1995. The 2018 Rockets squad was at the peak of their capabilities. Great offense powered by a prolific scorer in Harden and a great playmaker and shooter in CP3. Add in Clint Capella and PJ Tucker anchoring the best defense the Rockets have played in this decade, a 2-way menace in Trevor Ariza, and the spacing Eric Gordon brought to the court, and that's about as good as it ever got for them. The story of the series was Chris Paul's injury that cost them the last 2 games of the series, in which the Rockets had a chance to eliminate the Warriors. But don't forget, the Warriors were also playing without Andre Iguodala. With Paul out, everything that the Rockets had built in the regular season was torn down into little pieces, and the Rockets were back to their usual ways. Not only did Paul's absence leave Houston without their best perimeter defender, but also without the ball handler that helped keep the Rockets avoid falling into James Harden's iso ball. With no Paul there, the Rockets were back to their same old, useless and inefficient offensive game plan that consisted in shooting and hoping to make a ton of threes and letting Harden run a one-man show. And that eventually led to their downfall. Paul was the glue guy that helped put all the pieces together and made the machine run the right way. The true winning way, and not the traditional Rockets way. Instead, Harden's subpar efficiency and his teammates' inability to make threes cost them the series. To this day, the Rockets live by this game plan in the regular season, but in the playoffs, they've died on that hill time and time again. And when you think about it, it's lunacy to double down on a strategy that's been proven to be a failure in the postseason. Whatever little rim protection and defensive value Clint Capella brought to an otherwise below-average to bad defensive team is gone. And while understanding Houston's logic and trading him away isn't rocket science, no pun intended, they took their already insane strategy to the next level in an attempt to substitute Capella for a shooter. This isn't a case of addition by subtraction, as replacing a non-shooter with a good shooter does no good when the team can't consistently get any defensive stops. And good luck to the Rockets if they're expecting Russell Westbrook to make jump shots in the playoffs. And if the Rockets' first-round series against the Thunder this year is any indication, they're going to need much more than Westbrook making his jumpers to make it far enough. Not to discredit the 2019-2020 OKC Thunder squad, they're big overachievers and they deserve major props for pushing Houston to a 7-game series that could have gone either way. But the Rockets had no business sweating on the first round as much as they did. We also confirmed in this series how James Harden might be the most passive superstar in postseason crunch time. Down the line in Game 6, Harden was tightly guarded, and rightfully so, but made no efforts to get himself open or call for the ball. It almost seemed as if he were uninterested in participating in that crucial last play that ended up costing them the game. Instead, Westbrook went in hero ball mode and took an awful shot that essentially threw their winning chances down the toilet. Not only is Harden the far better candidate to have the ball in his hand late in games, but that's what he's supposed to do when he's that talented. Harden can hit step-back threes, drive to the rim, or draw a foul from the defense. He's a full 3-level threat. And it's crazy to think Harden has proven capable of making big plays in clutch situations in the regular season, just not in the playoffs. Why would he rather have Westbrook, who's a terrible shooter and predictable driver, have the ball in his hands or even take the last shot? Perhaps Harden is so talented that his hero ball heroics are usually enough to get the job done in the regular season, but he's at the same time incapable or unaccustomed to play team basketball when they desperately need it in the playoffs. Regular season play is much different than postseason basketball. Not only do stakes get higher and tensions get bigger, but teams now face an opponent that has scouted their game from top to bottom and have come up with a strategy designed to stop them. And James Harden's elite talents have been able to win some first-round series for the Rockets. He's just that good and talented to beat a weaker opposing team almost single-handedly. But when it's time to face tougher competition in the second round or in the Western Conference Finals, there isn't one player that can defeat a whole team working together and executing their game plan. Just ask LeBron James, arguably the greatest basketball player ever, how it felt to go at the Warriors with almost no help. Hero ball was a strategy that could have worked for guys like Allen Iverson or Kobe Bryant in the past, but today's league has no tolerance for one-man shows, and its own system naturally punishes that sort of play. The big and important question, why do the Rockets continue playing an offense that's consistently failed? So what's the solution to that? It's of course easier said than done, but the Rockets need their whole offense in action and everybody on the court involved. When you have two top-notch all-stars like Harden and Westbrook, you need a motion offense. They need to make teams sweat on defense and have them struggle on switches and rotations. It's impossible to capitalize on defensive mistakes when you have 4 teammates standing still at the three-point line and your 5th guy is trying to play hero ball. That type of offense is predictable and heavily reliant on outstanding shot making. So unless the Rockets can consistently make their threes at a 40+% rate and draw as many shooting fouls as they do in the regular season, that offense will continue to be useless in the playoffs. They need to force opposite defenses to be in constant motion and capitalize on their holes they create through those means. By forcing defenses to move, they could feed Harden or Westbrook, 2 elite finishers at the rim, with much more ease. And if the defense collapses inside, that's when you look to your three-point threats. Take a close look at what happened when Kevin Durant was forced into playing team basketball in a Warriors motion offense. Now imagine if Harden and the Rockets could play such style. For as long as Mike D'Antoni wants to continue with his lunatic 5-out ISO basketball offense, the Rockets will mount little to no meaningful playoff runs. And honestly, it's hard to point fingers and blame one single culprit. You can't put all the blame on Harden, D'Antoni, the front office, or the Rockets supporting cast. But the big takeaway is this. Whether it's with the Rockets or not, until James Harden adjusts to playing team basketball in the postseason, he'll continue falling short of achieving any sort of significant success. Do you think James Harden will win an NBA championship before retiring? Why do you think the Beard has such a bad time in the playoffs? How far can this Rockets team go? Make sure to comment your thoughts down below, as well as leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.